Sonic Adventure 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. Ever since I was a child, I spent countless hours playing Sonic Adventure, exploring every nook and cranny of this game. Mykonos Fan has a fantastic video about the mystique of Sonic Adventure that I recommend watching. Aside from its fantastic gameplay, good looking visuals, and incredible music, there's an aspect of Sonic Adventure that I feel is understated by comparison: the story. I'm not going to sit here and bore you to death with a long plot synopsis of the game. I'm here to talk about the themes within the game's story that resonated with me. The themes of discovery and understanding. The story of Sonic Adventure is split into 6 different perspectives, following 6 different characters, all following their own paths that lead to the same destination at the end. There are a few here that have their own arcs that come together in a bigger picture. For example, Tails' story is about gaining confidence and becoming your own person. Amy's is the same, but it's a bit confusing, as I've never been able to accurately decipher what she says at the end. But the gist of it is that Amy wants Sonic to respect her, so she's going to do her best to show him how capable she is. I've never understood the "it'll be too late" part of her declaration. Hopefully someone watching this video can explain that to me in the comments. Knuckles' story ends with him trying to rationalize all the visions of the past that Call showed him. Knuckles understood what happens in the visions, but he concludes that it's probably for the best. He doesn't know what it all means, but as seen in Sonic Frontiers, Knuckles is the closest person aside from Eggman to piecing together the truth about Angel Island. E123 Omega witnesses his brother Beta being broken down and built back up into a new machine. The scene horrifies the robot to such an extent that it reaches a new level of sentience and goes on a suicide mission, freeing his other siblings by destroying them, releasing the life inside them, allowing them to be free. In the end, Gamma sacrifices himself for the greater good. All 4 of these stories share the themes of understanding and discovery in different ways. Amy reminisces about the glory days where Sonic would swoop in and save the day, but at the end of the story becomes her own hero. We see how she responds to this new challenge unexpectedly thrown at her when she saves Gamma from Sonic, due to being able to see that Gamma wasn't the same mindless robot that usually does Eggman's bidding. In later games, we see that Amy is able to appeal to the emotions of another being rather well, due to her own ability to empathize, like with Shadow in SA2 and the Coco in Sonic Frontiers. We see the beginning of Amy's evolution when the will to fight is sparked within her after Zero's continued chase injures the bird she's been protecting. Interestingly, the bird is a light shade of blue, which shows a nice inverse of roles here in Amy's story. The battle with Zero and the blue bird mustering the strength to fly once again inspires Amy, proclaiming that she herself can do anything as well. Amy's arc eventually evolves into wanting to be a person more mature than she currently is. It all began with what she experienced on the egg carrier. The foundation of understanding what she wanted out of herself is what allowed Amy to grow, and in recent years she's become even more of a highlight character in the franchise because of it. We see that while Knuckles doesn't have his own personal character arc, the story ends with him gaining more knowledge about his past and the Master Emerald, which allowed him to accurately assess the situation in the last story. Much like Amy, Knuckles takes the things he learned from Adventure 1 and applies some of that knowledge instantly in SA2, and years later in Frontiers, where he accurately speculates that the Ancients and Knuckles clan once lived together. What Knuckles doesn't gain is any inward understanding, but he discovers more about the truth of the world around him, which is a nice parallel to some of the other characters' own arcs being about themselves. Gamma isn't the first story to tell of an evil creation turning face after discovering what they were made for and using their powers for an ultimate greater good, but it's a damn good telling of that trope. Scenes like him watching Beta get torn apart and remade into a new machine are so well done. It's perfectly haunting from Gamma's perspective, and alongside seeing the other E-Series robots getting dumped by Eggman, and Amy telling Gamma that Eggman is evil, the robot begins to understand the situation he's in. Part of me isn't exactly sure if this is due to the conscience given to Gamma through the power of the bird that makes him act like this, or if it's the bird's own willpower overpowering Gamma's own conscience as time goes on. I'm pondering this possibility because this leap Gamma takes mentally happens rather quickly. He states that the other robots are his friends, but his idea of rescuing them meant essentially killing them to release the animals trapped inside. Maybe the bird's will to be free from inside him led to do so for the others before ultimately doing it for himself. That could be the case, or maybe Gamma simply saw what happened to all the other robots around him as acts of cruelty, and understood that they would be better off if they weren't wandering aimlessly with no purpose in their current state. Whatever the reasons for his actions, one thing that's for certain is that Gamma came to understand what freedom meant for him as well as all the others, and took the most radical and tragic path to achieve said freedom. The last story itself has its own showing of these two themes, when Sonic tells Twinkle that Chaos needed to be set free from the hate in its heart. Sonic being the first and only person to come to this conclusion after being shown those visions of the past shows how perceptive he is, which I talked about in the previous video about Sonic's character. Tails' story is where the themes of discovery and understanding are on full display. Tails' history is a complicated one. He stopped the bird army from taking over Coco Island, but has been bullied for his twin Tails. Spending a good majority of his young life alone leads to him crossing paths with Sonic, whose charisma and acknowledgement of the young fox boy forms a brotherly bond between the two. Tails, while very much capable of fighting and achieving major accomplishments on his own, found comfort in being second fiddle to Sonic. When all else fails, Sonic will figure something out to save the day as always. So what happens when the two are separated during a major event? What if Tails feels responsible for their failure to stop Eggman? What does Tails do then? That's the crux of Tails' story in Sonic Adventure 1. When Tails wakes up from his dream, he immediately puts together a plan to create a new version of the tornado capable of going toe-to-toe with the egg carrier. Keep in mind Tails' behavior here, because it directly contrasts with how he acts later in his story when Eggman's failed missile launch happens. Here, he's motivated. Tails knows what to do and thanks Sonic for giving him the courage in the first place. After the duo take down the egg carrier, Eggman launches the failed missile attack and Tails panics. Here is where we're presented with the last trait of Tails, for better and for worse. His inconsistency. He's capable of doing great things but gets in his own way often. We've seen it countless times across many games in recent years. Tails' lack of engagement in physical confrontations has become a point of contention in the Sonic community. He went from believing in his own ability without question to calling out for Sonic to help him in the span of a day. We see this back and forth with Tails' character through many games after this. He often shows his technical smarts as time passes, but sort of falls off to the wayside, simply being Sonic's friend who handles all the details while Sonic does all the action. This back and forth with Tails is recontextualized in Sonic Frontiers, where Tails vows to become a more capable hero. Of course he does it for the sake of impressing Sonic, but I'm hopeful that in future games, Tails becomes a hero capable of depending fully on himself when times are tough. The themes of Sonic Adventure 1 are incredible. There are a few in this game that I think are interesting to dig into to see if these two themes of discovery and understanding are prevalent, as the songs are extensions of each character's personalities and even hint at future events in the game. Sonic's It Doesn't Matter is such an interesting song because it feels like Sonic doesn't really reach a moral conclusion at the end. Most of the song is spent telling us about why Sonic is the way he is, but when it comes to understanding how he became that way, it remains a journey that Sonic doesn't know the end of. I really like this introspection we're getting from this song. A direct contrast to this song is His World from Sonic 06. That song is framed as someone telling the story of Sonic as a legendary hero. A hero that's proactive and confident. We don't get many moments where Sonic looks inward. Sonic is a guy who's almost always observing the behavior of those around him, which is why it seems like he always knows what to say and when to say the right thing. He's simply the way he is, but this attempt to try and dig deeper into the how, to understand himself better, makes me appreciate the song even more than I already do in a different way. I love Big's theme. Lazy Days Living in Paradise is just a great vibe song. It's mostly about Big and his friend Froggy doing whatever the fuck in the name of having a good time, whether it be exploring some new area they've never been to, or fishing in the ponds and rivers of the jungle. The duo have a level of understanding between them that, while simplistic, is so deeply rooted. They just get each other. Their friendship took a bit of a rocky turn in this game, but they came out on the other side, falling right back into the comfort of not knowing what they're gonna do next. Big kind of mirrors Sonic in this way. Neither of them know what the next day will bring, but they're more than ready to go on that next adventure. The only difference here is that while in Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic himself may not be too sure of it all, Big isn't either, but is grounded by his loving friendship with Froggy. Their songs also present this contrast well. Big's song ultimately says that love is what gives him the simplistic clarity. He gets to do it all and see it all with his best friend by his side. I recommend listening to Big's theme whenever you get the chance. It's so damn good. I won't spend too much time on Tails' theme song because I want to connect it to the last story more than his own. There's a specific line in Tails' song that perfectly encapsulates the message of the last story. Tails coming to his own conclusion that there are unique things that everyone can do to help in a sticky situation leads to him being the one to make the proclamation that the power of friendship can tap into the energy of the emeralds to neutralize the hatred and chaos. Tails being the one to recognize this shows the immediate progress taking place with this character that came with the completion of his story. Tails and the rest of Sonic's friends end up helping him in the moment where he needed it the most, when it's usually the other way around. I love how that came back around to being a big piece of the final story. Akinori Nishiyama, the head scenario writer for Sonic Adventure 1, has a pretty good track record of writing these stories for the Sonic games packed with great theming and subtext, saying a lot and calling back to previous events within the story without actually having to say a lot, or straight up telling the audience what's going on. This story is full of that, and that's why it's great in my opinion. What makes the events of this story even better is how the ripple effects are being seen more prominently in recent Sonic media like Frontiers in the comics. It shows that these character arcs weren't just one-off stories. The writers for Sonic Team were making a calculated effort with Sonic Adventure story. The fact that it's still so important to the lore speaks volumes. Sonic Adventure story has resonated with me in a way almost no other story in the franchise has, and I'll be forever grateful for that. I wouldn't be here sharing these silly little theories and thoughts about Sonic if it weren't for games like this. Anybody else got something about Sonic Adventure story, hell, about Sonic Adventure in general that you really love and want to share? Feel free to leave a comment. Before this video ends, I just wanted to shout out Little B-Doob over on Twitter for this beautiful art piece of Sonic for Pride Month. I don't have much to say, this just encapsulates Sonic's character so perfectly in a few words that I get a little emotional just looking at it for too long. I felt like I had to share this beyond the confinements of Twitter, so go over there and give it a like if you choose. Shout out to you for watching. I'm out.